Hi, we're going to look at three different ways to communicate organic structures. We use structural diagrams, condensed structural diagrams, and line angle formulas. So in order to represent propane, the molecular formula is C3H8. In order to write a structural formula for propane, we would literally have to show all the carbons and all the hydrogens. So we have 3 carbons connected together, and then we have to show all 8 hydrogens and where they're placed. So we see, because every carbon makes 4 bonds, the carbons on the end require 3 hydrogens, and the carbons that are in between would require 2. So this is the structural diagram. In the condensed structural diagram or condensed structural formula, what we do is we omit some of the detail. We don't show where the hydrogens are. We don't show the bonds between carbon and hydrogen. So once you understand this structure very well, you can just write CH3, CH2, CH3. It just shows the bonds between the carbon and how the carbons are connected together, because you already know where the hydrogens are. The geometric or line angle diagram has the least detail of all. I would represent propane like this. Every endpoint and every intersection is a carbon atom. Every carbon has enough hydrogen. What do I mean by enough? Well, like we said a minute ago, the carbons on the end, because they have only 1 bond to another carbon and they require 4 bonds, these must be CH3s. They must have 3 hydrogens. This carbon, because it is connected to 2 others, represented by these bonds, must be a CH2 group. There's nothing else it could be. And then finally, at the other end, we have another CH3, because with only 1 bond to another carbon, it must have 3 hydrogen on it. So this is the fastest way to communicate. It has the least detail, and the reader needs to understand the most in order to be able to interpret it. Also, we need to look at, probably in our next video, how we would write a similar molecule, how we would communicate its structure if it had a functional group. Now we're going to look at how we would communicate using geometric or line angle, structural and condensed structural formulas in a molecule that has a functional group. So we're going to look at C3H7OH as our example. So this is propanol. And let's just say in this example that the OH functional group is on the middle atom. So in the structural diagram, we have 3 carbons. The OH functional group, which makes it an alcohol, is on the middle carbon. This carbon at the end would have 3 hydrogen. Same thing at the other end. And the middle carbon would need 1 more bond, so it must have 1 hydrogen. Now we have C3H7OH, which is 2-propanol, but not something you would have to know how to name. The condensed structural diagram would be CH3, CH, and you have a choice of either showing the functional group off to one side, like this, or sometimes it's written in line, but that can be a bit confusing. So we'll show it like this. The geometric or line angle is shown like this. Although C's are not shown and H's are not shown if they're on carbons, the H, which is on the oxygen, is shown, and the oxygen is shown because it isn't a carbon or hydrogen. So we know that this has to be a CH3 group at the end. We count the bonds. This must have one hydrogen, this carbon must have one hydrogen, and this carbon must have three. Oxygen, the heteroatom, is shown, and this hydrogen is shown because it is not on a carbon.